Yes, it's been a while since we had a good talk like this. So, what is it you all want to know about me? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Q&A with AniMat, and today I am back to go and answer the questions that you may want to know about me. I feel like it's been quite some time since I've done an episode like this, so I figured now would be a great time to go and actually do so, to have a moment to talk with the fans and answer whatever interesting questions that you would like to know about me. That, and also I need to buy some time in order to go and finish off the finale of Animation Look Back Walt Disney Animation Studios Plus, so this is actually a pretty good excuse to buy some time. Alright, but anyways, with all that said, let's actually get into this and start things off with our first question, which is going to be from Elijah Prizzle. And Elijah asks me, "Hi Animat, love your videos. What is your favorite animated villain song? Mine is Hellfire from The Hunchback of Notre Dame." Well, in terms of my favorite, there's a lot of great ones out there, and definitely enjoy a good amount of them that are considered fan favorites, of course. Stuff like Be Prepared from The Lion King, or Friends from the Other Side from The Princess and the Frog, or even Toxic Love from Fern Gully is always great to listen to. But if I would have to go and pick one favorite villain song, I haven't put anything like set in stone, but I would say for now would probably have to be Poor Unfortunate Soul from The Little Mermaid. That definitely feels like a good one that has this great build up to present like the motives and what the villain is trying to do towards the main character to deceive her in trying to get what she wants, which is ultimately her voice, and especially from the performance of Pat Carroll, and then of course the beloved lyrics that are written by Howard Ashman, and even the composition from Alan Menken to build up like this great crescendo in order to really set up the mood of what's happening with the song. I feel this is ultimately a great combination to create such an amazing and unforgettable villain song. So for me, I definitely have to go with Poor Unfortunate Soul. However, I will say though that there is another one that I don't know if many people would say that could count, but there's also another where I would say it's such an underrated moment. I mean, it's technically an already existing song, but such a great villain song moment per se. And it is coming from a movie that is relatively forgettable. It's understandable for that kind of film, but such a great surprise and a great unexpected moment. And for me, that is actually the scene in Rio 2 where the villain, I forgot his name, I do apologize, I'll go pop it up somewhere here. But it's when he bursts out of nowhere to sing "I Will Survive" in order to convince the characters to be a part of this talent show. And it was such a moment where, like, it was out of nowhere. Like, you would never expect that suddenly they would sing "Out of Survive," but then suddenly he would just start to sing "I Will Survive," like actually take it seriously that we're suddenly into this. And it's actually a really good rendition of "I Will Survive." A pretty short one, but still a lot of fun. And especially from the fact that it is from Jermaine Clement, I will say that if you guys did enjoy Shiny from Moana, then you'll definitely love that moment of "I Will Survive" from Rio 2. It's a very forgettable movie, but for me, it was the most unexpected and easily the best scene in the film. So I highly recommend that you go and check out that scene from Rio 2. Or at least just look up the Rio 2 version of "I Will Survive" and you'll get quite a very pleasant surprise. Alright, so the next question that I have here is going to be from Serenity M16, and Serenity asks me, "What's your favorite terrible animated movie with an interesting history?" Well, that doesn't require me liking the terrible movie, right? Is actually liking the interesting story of the terrible movie. If that's the case, then yeah, I actually do have a few in mind. In fact, I actually got two of them that I actually remember the most, and I feel like they are the most fascinating stories, down to the point that they could actually make a very solid feature film out of them. Something in the veins of like The Disaster Artist. And the first one, of course, I gotta go with Food Fight. I feel like Food Fight is a history in which everything went wrong, and yet it just felt like such an incredible and unique story as to why it went into the direction that it ultimately led to, especially with so much money that is poured into it, and especially with the creative decisions that went behind it, especially from this one executive that had no one to stop him, despite the fact that he obviously had no idea what he was doing with creating an animated feature, and especially with such an ambitious concept of having all these different food brands come together in the style of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Of course, this is a very unique idea that could have worked, but whatever went wrong did go wrong, and it even went above and beyond because of some of the things that were even beyond their control, especially with all those computers being stolen, and they had to resort to this last minute plan that honestly did not work out as well, but still they try to figure out something. But then there is also another one that I find to be very fascinating. Of course, it has to be the Legend of Oz. Is it Legends of Oz or Legend of Oz? Either way, Legends of Oz. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you see my videos, then you definitely know about the story about what happened during the making of Legends of Oz, and some of the shady practices that went behind it. And I still stand by that it is the biggest animation scam in history, in which the people who raised money to make that film ended up walking away with $100 million. And by the way, just a quick update. I know that there are a lot of people out there who do want me to do a part 3 on the story, to go and discuss about what happened during the lawsuit with that case. And I can give you the update right now that, of course, because of the pandemic, things are going a lot slower than usual, but it is still going on. Despite the fact that nobody is really talking about it, that doesn't change the fact that the lawsuit is still up and running. In fact, just a few months ago, the defendants that do include Greg and Noah Centineo, they tried to go and remove the appeals, but the appeals are staying intact. So right now, the plaintiffs, which are the investors, they actually got a pretty massive upper hand right now, and we're just waiting for more time to see how things are going to be developed with that court case. And this is not to mention plenty of the other court cases from the other people that are involved with the fundraising and the production of Legends of Oz, including the man who is considered the assistant to Greg Centineo, John Texter, in which he has his hands full with numerous of lawsuits, let's say. So I would love to go and make a part 3 of the Legends of Oz story, but I want to wait until I actually do have an actual conclusion, or that I have more materials to go and work with. So just you wait on that. Okay, so hopefully that will answer that question, and it's now time we're going to jump onto the next one with Amelia Jones. And Amelia asks me, in terms of box office bombs in the history of Disney animation, which film was the biggest box office bomb, The Black Cauldron or Treasure Planet? Well, among those two, that would actually depend. That would depend on your definition of what is a box office bomb. Because if we are strictly talking about the numbers, if we're talking about how much money was lost, then of course it's going to be Treasure Planet. There is no denying that Treasure Planet was Disney's biggest box office bomb in terms of the amount of money that it lost, just because it failed when it was released in theaters. However, The Black Cauldron can debatably be considered a bigger box office bomb than Treasure Planet, because of how it negatively affected Disney animation and the whole company in general. You guys might recall just before Michael Eisner entered the scene and became the new Disney CEO, the Walt Disney Company was debatably at their worst. Like, there was almost nothing that was helping Disney to go and raise funds, with the exception of the Disney parks. And when The Black Cauldron was released, and it ended up making very little money at the box office, down to the point that it was infamously very well known, where the Care Bears movie actually ended up making more money than The Black Cauldron when both of them were in theaters. There was a bit of a consideration within the company to just shut down the entire animation industry, or to sell all the different divisions to different companies. It was at their worst, where it basically, the reason why The Black Cauldron could be considered a bigger box office bomb is because it was at the point where they were at their closest to being shut down. It was the closest to being the end of Disney animation. But luckily, that did not happen, and Disney Animation did get a second chance and managed to get a popularity rebound, like, where it just went up from there. Like, The Black Cauldron put them at the bottom, where it was at the point where it was just nowhere to go but up for Disney Animation, and thankfully, that's what happened with The Great Mouse Detective, and then after that, there was Oliver and Company, and then they got a massive push of popularity thanks to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then we enter into Disney's renaissance with The Little Mermaid, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I guess to answer your question in short, it depends on how you consider to be a box office bomb. By the numbers is Treasure Planet. By how it affected the company, it's Black Cauldron. All right, so the next question that I have here is going to be from Isaac Wide on Facebook, and Isaac asks me, do you think physical cinemas are dead and buried, or can they be resurrected? You know, I'm just going to say right now, I know that in the past, I have always been a major advocate for people to stay safe and to stay at home, and whenever they would have the option, I would always be the one to recommend that they should stay at home and watch the movie digitally instead of going out to the movie theater and just watch it on the big screen and risk their health. But I will say that I never actually thought that cinemas would truly be in danger, or that they would be at risk of extinction. Yes, I know that because of the pandemic, we do live in a very different time where we saw a massive rise of streaming services, but that doesn't mean that we would see cinemas go away anytime soon, because there have always been a history of cinemas being so paranoid about potentially being replaced. This is no different than back in like the 1950s or 1960s when we saw the rise of television. And they managed to survive through that, so it's not going to be that different with the whole streaming services and the whole streaming wars, where despite them being massively popular, that doesn't mean cinemas are going to be going away anytime soon. Not to mention that many governments, especially from the ones in North America and other major first world countries like the US, Canada, the UK, and many, many more, they're able to go and put in some funds in order to save cinemas so that they could stay up in business. And I'm sure that, like, since we are close to the end of the pandemic, or at least as I am recording this, now that we are at the point that more and more people are actually getting vaccinated and that they are preparing themselves for their bodies to be immune to the coronavirus, and then we are at the point where we're starting to see people become more excited to go back to the movie theaters. And I could even say for myself, I'm honestly pretty excited to actually go and watch a movie on the big screen. It's honestly been such a long time. Throughout this whole pandemic, there has only been once that I've ever been to the big screen, and that was to go and watch the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. I haven't went back since. I can't wait for me to actually go and get my vaccine so that I can feel safe And when it actually does feel like it is the right time, that I can actually go back to the movie theaters, buy some popcorn, just enjoy the movie, and maybe that would be the reason why I would have to go and make a review. But then again, like, it also depends on the movie theaters themselves, if they are going to show them. Like, I'm just gonna give out an example. Like with Raya and the Last Dragon, I had no choice but to go and watch it on Disney Plus, because the grand majority of cinemas all around me decided to just not show it entirely because of how they were so butthurt of how Disney was also showing it on Disney Plus and won't even budge to make a compromise with cinemas. So that's why I had no choice but to go and see it on Disney Plus. But yeah, I'm just gonna say right now that I think movie theaters are gonna be okay throughout this pandemic, and I'm sure most people, regardless of how they view this pandemic and how they view COVID-19, they can't wait to go back. For me, however, I'm gonna say that I can't wait to go back when it's gonna be time that it's perfectly safe for me and for the people around me. All right, so the next question that I have here is going to be a little bit of a big one, but this is going to be from Echo on Twitter, and Echo asks me, this one I feel you will probably spend a bit of time, but I do want to see where you stand since you are a fan. What is your overall thoughts on Disney as of now, not only in terms of projects, but also as a company? And if you were in charge, what would you add, fix, or change? Well, you guys definitely know that there is no secret that I am a major Disney fan. In fact, look what's beside me, actually. I definitely love Disney. I love their movies. I love their theme parks. And yeah, I do have an admiration for the company. But I will admit that, while it is highly admirable the way that they have become possibly the biggest entertainment corporation in the world, there is a bit of times where it can feel like they have become a little too big. And I know that sounds pretty crazy to say that something might be too successful or too big, but I think it was proven that that could be possible when Disney decided to just flat out buy one of their competitors, when they decided to go and buy out 21st Century Fox and just claim them as their own. Like, that was like a freaky but such a major power move that did prove that, yeah, there is a way where they can be a little bit too big, and it can be a little bit concerning. That's why you see a lot of claims that people are making that Disney is slowly but surely turning to be a monopoly. So, as much as I do admire them, yes, I do think that there are times when they can be a little bit too big, even for the entertainment industry. But I will say, though, that if there is one thing that I would love to change from Disney, it would be, I want to see more originality coming from them. Now, of course, I love their animation division, but they're depending on them way too much to develop new IPs, to develop new original projects, especially with the case of Disney Animation, with Pixar, and even in some cases with their television animation as well. That they're depending on them way too much to really use their creativity and use their imagination in order to go and come up with new IPs, to create new characters, and to tell new stories. I feel like they should go and tell more new original stories in their other divisions. Like, I get it, there are some that they can't necessarily do that, like maybe Lucasfilm, since they are really focused on Star Wars and especially with Marvel. But when it comes to their live action movies, and especially their theme parks, I would love to see more originality on them, because right now it really feels like they're becoming a little too dependent on their existing IPs, or try to find new ways to resell some of their already existing IPs. This is why we see so many of those Disney live action remakes, or even turning some of their movies into rides. Like, some of them are great, but then again, it would be nice to see a new original IP. And I feel like when it comes to the Disney parks, they are at their strongest when they would create something original that is not related to any of their major movies that come out that isn't related to something like Wreck-It Ralph or Frozen or whatever. I mean, sure, yeah, the Disney parks have created a lot of great original products and a lot of amazing original rides, such as Mystic Manor, and even the whole plot line with the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. But then again, those are only prominent like only amongst super fans and only amongst the international Disney parks. Like a lot of the original stuff that you would find nowadays are mainly or debatably only in stuff like in Hong Kong or in Shanghai or maybe even a little bit in Japan. In the American ones like Disneyland or Walt Disney World, when was the last time that we've had an original Disney attraction? Or when was the last time that we had a brand new character that you could exclusively find at the Disney parks? It's been quite a while. And that's honestly one major thing that I want to change is that I want to see Disney make more brand new IPs and not just rely on their animation division in creating so, because Disney is at their best, regardless of which branch it is, whether it be in animation or live action, their theme parks or whatever, they're always at their strongest when they make something original and don't have to depend on their past in order to create something new. Okay, so the next question that I have here is going to be from Darren Trappenberg, and Darren asks me, considering the amount of remakes that Disney's been making, do you think Disney will start remaking their remakes, and will this trend ever end? Well, speaking of the Disney live-action remakes, well, okay, before I begin, I just want to say that what I'm about to say is going to be a theory, and it's based on my opinion. So this is not predicting the future whatsoever, but this is my guess on when I feel like we are starting to see the end of the Disney live action remakes. And honestly, I could say right now that I feel like we're already at the beginning of the end. Or when it's going to be the beginning of the end will be after the release of the Little Mermaid remake. And the reason why I say that is because if you go and take a look at Disney's live action remakes, you'll notice that in terms of their most popular ones, they are the ones that are also the biggest ones from the Disney Renaissance, the movies from the 1990s, movies such as Aladdin, The Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast. And The Little Mermaid is said to be the one that started the Disney Renaissance. So after that one, Disney will still continue to go and make live action remakes, but they certainly won't be as big and as popular as the movies from the 1990s, or the remakes that are based on the ones from the 1990s. If Disney still wants to go and continue them, then they'll have to scrape through like the smaller films. They'll have to go through the rest of Disney's library, you know, stuff in terms of the movies from the 1990s, the ones that they have left as I am recording this are Pocahontas, which is highly doubtful that they will make because it would be way too controversial for Disney to go and do. Then there is also The Hunchback of Notre Dame, there is Hercules, and there is also Tarzan. Two of those, Hunchback and Hercules, I believe they are already in production right now. And those are the only ones left that might have a chance to be as popular as the ones from the early 1990s, or the ones based on the ones from the early 1990s. And then following afterwards, if Disney would still want to go and make more, well, they'll probably end up becoming Disney Plus exclusives. And I know that some people could debate that there are some exceptions to this rule, and you are correct, there are some exceptions, such as Maleficent, based on Sleeping Beauty, or The Jungle Book as well. And then there's also the factor that they want to go and actually make some sequels. But in that case, however, we have yet to actually have any proof that those sequels can be successful, especially when Alice Through the Looking Glass and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil were major box office bombs. And technically, there are ways for the live action remakes to actually end up becoming a box office bomb, which is the case with Dumbo. But I believe after The Little Mermaid's release, when that one, I am pretty positive that it's going to be a major success, even at the box office. Like, after that, that's when we're going to probably start to see a bit of a decline in terms of the live action remakes. But then again, that's just me, and that's just a theory. Okay, so hopefully that will answer that question. And now it is time we're going to look into another question, which will be from Bridget the Rose on YouTube. And Bridget asks me, I've noticed you're a big fan of Weird Al Yankovic. Me too. How long have you been a fan of his, and what's your favorite Weird Al song and music video? Man, honestly, I've been a fan of Weird Al for a very, very long time. And to this day, I still consider him my favorite music artist, and I still love listening to his works. In fact, I remember I actually bought like this major ultimate set where it's this replica of an accordion, and it has his entire discography. That's how much I love Weird Al. But to go and answer your question in terms of how long I've been of a fan, I think it's safe to say that it's been many, many years, almost to the point that actually consider, I could say decades, that I've been a Weird Al fan, because I remember, I think, I started becoming a Weird Al fan when I was a kid in summer camp. It was a theater summer camp, and one of the kids was putting up some songs, some parody songs that were from Weird Al, and I never heard him before. And the first song that I've ever heard from him was Amish Paradise. And by the way, just to give you some context, this was like back in the beginning of the 2000s, like during the start of that decade. I think it was yeah, actually, it's certain that it was before Straight Out of Linwood and White and Nerdy became a worldwide phenomenon. But going back to my little story there, I remember the first thing that the first song that I was introduced to Weird Al was actually Amish Paradise, and to this day, I still consider it my favorite Weird Al song. And even the music video was just absolutely hilarious. In fact, it still brings me such joy knowing that I even saw Weird Al perform it live when I remember he had an outdoor concert, and that was the encore song that he actually played. So overall, it was like that concert in general was such an amazing experience. I definitely loved it. And overall, I gotta say, my favorite. So yeah, I've been a fan for a very long time, and if I gotta go and pick a favorite, it's easily Amish Paradise. Okay, so for the next one, this is actually pretty interesting because for the first time, this person asked me to remain anonymous, but they brought up a pretty good question, so I'll go and respect their wishes. So this person asks me, with your knowledge of animation, have you ever considered working on an animated project yourself? Oh yes, absolutely, all my life. Ever since I became a major Disney and animation fan, I've always wanted to go and work into the industry one way or another. In fact, when growing up, I always wanted to be an animator. And I tried to go and take some courses, even went to college to go and study in fine arts. But then when it was time to go to a different university to go and actually study animation, unfortunately, that never really happened. And that was back when I was starting to go and make my videos, so I ended up shifting my focus onto my videos instead and doing reviews and stuff like that. So the dreams of being an animator and stuff like that slowly but surely faded away. However, that didn't necessarily mean I don't want to go and work into an animated project, because there are different ways that you can go and do so. And since I am trying to become more of a voice actor, I can proudly say that there actually have been moments that, yes, I actually did work on some animated projects where I was very fortunate enough to go and do several auditions and even landed a few roles to which I actually collaborated with voice directors and worked with writers and some animators and stuff like that to actually go and do some voiceover work for some projects that are going to be happening in the future. And as much as I would love to go and talk to you guys about them, I honestly cannot because I signed some NDA contracts. So for now, I can only say stay tuned for what's to come because yes, it will be happening when you guys might actually recognize me as a voice actor. And you never know for which projects because you might be surprised. Maybe some of them could actually turn out to be big. I can't really say, but you'll see. Okay, so the next question that I have over here is going to be from Phantom Thief Mia. And Mia asks me, what do you wish you knew before you gained a following? Yeah, oh boy, that's honestly a pretty big question. And if there are a couple of things that I wish I knew, I would say that there are two things that I wish I knew that even to this day, I'm still doing my best in order to actually follow my own word and to move on with that mentality in order to really make myself a better content creator and to be a better internet personality that a bunch of people from around the world do actually look up to me. I know that's like a statement that, yeah, it might seem egotistical to say, but it is the truth. I know that there are some people that actually do look up to me. But the first thing that I wish I knew was to really be myself. To really go and make my videos and find a way to say that they are coming from me, that they are my videos. I know that at the start of it, I did admittedly take a lot of elements from content creators that I used to watch back then. In fact, if you look back, like back in the early 2010s when I started making videos, you'll find that there's a lot of similarities to the works that I've done to the Nostalgia Critic, for example. So it did take me a few years in order to understand to have my own voice. And that is something that I wish I knew is to like I wish I knew how could I approach this and give my own take on producing videos like what I do right now, like how to make animats reviews and how to make animation look back or my top 10s or whatever, how to make those animats videos instead of looking like some kind of AVGN ripoff or a Nostalgia Critic wannabe and stuff like that. So that is something I wish I knew. And also another one that I'm still doing my best in order to try to follow my words is to not think about what others may think of you. And that is honestly a really difficult hurdle to pass. And I know some people to this day would struggle to think. And that was something that for me, it took a long time to accept, to stop thinking about what others may possibly think about you, regardless of who they are, rather if they be your fans online or if they are others that you may know and stuff like that, or like what other internet personalities or what other people I may admire may think of me, and all that kind of stuff. I know some people might say that it could be a bit of a selfish mentality, but you guys have no idea how much time can be wasted by just thinking about what do others think of me. Like you would end up scrolling around the comments about what people may think about you, and then like you'll probably have like this one negative comment that might hit you a bit in a pretty bad way where it might get stuck in your head for a while. Like it can happen when you would have those moments. So when you would not think about it, when you decided to just close off on what others may think of you, regardless if they either love you or if they hate you and stuff like that, you just got to accept the fact that not everyone is going to love you, and maybe even the people you admire as well, not all of them are going to like you in return. So it's best to just focus on you and focus on what you are doing right now. And because of that, it's actually not until a few months ago that I ultimately decided to shut myself off from looking at the comments and get myself a bunch of moderators to help me sort through the comments to weed out the bad ones and keep up the good ones and stuff like that. Like honestly, ever since then, I feel like it was very liberating where I find myself having a lot more time where I don't have to worry about comments. I don't have to worry about what others may think of me or have to worry especially about my reputation. Like just forget about all those and just focus on what I'm doing now. Just focus on the videos. Just focus on what makes me happy. And that is something that I wish I knew so long ago, is just forget about your reputation, forget about what others may think of you, forget about what they say in the comments. Just focus on what you are doing now. Just focus on making the next big video that people might potentially enjoy. And at the very least, if I enjoy doing what I do and if I enjoy the videos that I make, then honestly, that's a mission accomplished for me. So those are probably the two big lessons that I wish I learned before I gained a following. It's a pretty heavy loaded question, but honestly, that would be my honest answer on that. And finally, we are going to finish this off with one last question here, which shall belong to Captain Cat 101. And the captain asked me here, which online critics do you love watching? Now, I think it's safe to say that over the years, that would often fluctuate, that there are some reviewers that I would watch and they would either come and go, or that I would potentially lose interest in watching. But I will say right now, as I am recording this, the two reviewers that I currently love watching right now, number one, hands down, Double Toasted. I have been a longtime fan of Corey Coleman and Martin Thomas ever since their Spill days, and I still love watching Double Toasted. And even when I do my exercises, even when I work out, I almost picked up a bit of a routine where every time I do my exercises, or like when I'm on the treadmill, I always watch a Double Toasted review. And these guys have some great insights, and it's always fascinating to learn about their opinions and their thoughts about movies. I mean, I don't agree with all of them, but you know, it's pretty interesting to learn about their takes on what they have in terms of movies that I've either not seen or that I have either already seen and wanted to know their thoughts on. And plus the fact that they're definitely hilarious to watch. Like, they are generally funny guys, so it's always a great time when watching a new Double Toasted video, or watching them discuss about about the news, or or whatever they want to talk about. It's always a good time with them. So definitely love Double Toasted, and if you guys haven't seen them, please go and subscribe to them. I would even consider them a bit of an inspiration for me, where they do inspire me to this day to become a better critic, and even becoming a bit of a better podcaster as well for AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Another one that I do love watching as well, I would have to say, is Kedikarus. And with Kedikarus, I would debatably say that he is the nostalgia critic done right, where he kind of has that same formula as the nostalgia critic, but he knows how to do it very well, to do it respectfully in terms of what he is talking about, and also do it in a way in which the humor is just absolutely fantastic. Like, he has this very unique brand of humor that you could tell is very inspired by British comedy in terms of like Monty Python or something like that, but pretty much modernized to the age of YouTube, and he managed to really do it very well. And just like with Double Toasted, he's also a guy that's very insightful. He sounds like he knows what he is talking about, and it does result into both something that is both very entertaining and also informative at the same time. But there is also a whole bunch of honorable mentions that I do want to bring up as well, that are definitely worth watching. Of course, I also like watching Tony Goldmark. There is Theme Snark. There is Lindsay Ellis. There is James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, always a classic. There's a Musical Hell, and many, many more. So, like, probably if there's one thing that you could take from this Q&A video is to go and watch those videos, watch those reviewers in particular, because I know I have a good time watching them, and I'm sure you guys can also have a good time when you would go and watch them. All right, and I think with all that said, that should be it for this Q&A. So I would like to go and thank everyone who asked me a question all across social media for this video, and also special thanks especially to the people that did ask me the 10 questions here that I went and answered. You guys did a great job asking me some really good ones. And if you guys would like to go and ask a question that you would like me to go and answer, then just ask. Like, just write it down in the comments. Go and ask me on social media or whatever. If you have a good question, then there is a good chance that it could actually make it into the next episode. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes.